Hello, SLOconf 23, and thanks for tuning in. We have some exciting stuff coming up, so let's get started. My name is Stephan and I'm an engineer at Procore, where I work with the observability team to drive SLO adoption across the organization. In this talk, we're going to cross the lines to a related discipline to borrow some concepts that will help us view SLIs through a different lens. In particular, we're going to explore how to apply the black box concept to aggregate granular metrics into SLIs that focus on the user experience as an indicator of system reliability. But first, bear with me while I remind us of some basic definitions. SLOs define reliability targets for a product. SLOs are informed or hydrated by SLIs, and an SLI, in turn, is a measurement that is determined over a metric representing some property of a service. So far, no news here, right? But SLIs are where engineers can get lost in detail. If you're not an engineer, that's okay. Then maybe this will help you understand your engineers better. Engineers have a constant exposure and proximity to the systems we build and support. This often leads us to think of system reliability in technical terms or metrics such as response time, error rate, or throughput. Those metrics describe individual properties of the system, but not the system as a whole. In other words, we may not see the forest for the trees. Now, all those metrics are certainly valuable. However, the user experience may be compromised even if error rate is 0 and duration is well within SLO. How so? Consider the response data for a web service call to get stock quotes, where the web service has SLOs for response time and format. Say you request the current stock price for Amazon and get a response with valid JSON for the weather in Seattle. Oops. Well, you got a response and you got it primetime quick. And it was well-formed JSON. However, even if a response is well-formed, its data may not be current or may be entirely wrong. So the service is within SLO for response time and format. But the higher level consideration of correctness went undetected. So yes, we could add freshness and correctness SLIs. Doing so, however, increases the number of signals we're monitoring, error budgets and burn rates, alerting frequency, and more. So let's take a step back and borrow a concept from quality engineering, in particular, software testing. Tests commonly fall into one of two categories, black box tests or white box tests. In systems theory, the black box is an abstraction, which views the system in terms of its stimuli inputs and output reactions. A given input is expected to result in a particular output without any consideration to the processing steps. Common examples include end-to-end tests, such as getting a stock quote from a web service. White box tests, on the other hand, are designed with knowledge of and to test internal structures and workings of an application, for example, unit and integration tests. Now let's apply these concepts to our SLIs. Conceptually, a user journey aligns with a black box paradigm. For a given input, a particular output is expected. For example, requests to our API result in responses that provide fresh data to clients within a specific time frame. Now let's consider a few aspects of this SLI. It is applied at system level, it aggregates lower level metrics, and it is binary. It evaluates to true or false. In other words, these aspects combine to represent the user experience at the system level, measuring the user journey as a black box. Let's wrap this up with an example. In this system, a user requests a new account for a website. After the account was processed successfully, they receive a confirmation email. Of particular interest are the asynchronous steps of account creation, which involve an event processing engine. This engine, where the request for account creation is queued, offers several opportunities for insightful SLIs, such as queue length, processing time, etc. However, those SLIs are opaque to the user, even though they contribute to the user experience. The user journey begins with the initial request for account creation, the input, and ends with the email that contains the activation link, the output. Rephrasing the example from earlier, a user-focused or black box SLI could be: a request for a new account results in sending an email with valid activation link within 1 minute. This high-level SLI aggregates several lower-level metrics and measures many things by measuring only a few. Now let's switch to the engineering mindset mentioned earlier and assume the processing queue is stuck. Kind of like the Ever Given in the Suez Canal in March 21. Remember that one? Those were some seriously stuck queues on both sides of the canal. But back to the proposed black box SLI. It does not capture queue-specific metrics, so in the case of a stuck queue, we may consider a more granular SLI specific to queue size. While the queue size can impact the user experience, it is also opaque to the user. From an engineering perspective, it is a white box metric. Also, alerting to queue size does not address the root cause, why the queue got stuck in the first place. For this, we have monitoring and observability tools to diagnose and troubleshoot particular issues such as a stuck queue. The purpose of the SLI is to let us understand the impact on system reliability via the SLO's error budget and burn rate. Here is how the troubleshooting for the Ever Given looked at one point. Now, the long-term solution to the stuck processing queue used in this example is not an SLI dedicated to the queue or keeping a caterpillar at hand to dig out stuck ships, but reliability-focused work to diagnose and correct the root cause of the queue getting stuck in the first place. In the case of the Ever Given, the solution was to not authorize ships to enter the Suez Canal if wind speed is above whatever threshold was determined to have caused the Ever Given to turn sideways. So what's the TLDR? I asked ChatGPT, and it came up with a pretty good summary of this talk. And that's all, folks. If you enjoyed this talk, it is also published on Procore's engineering blog at engineering.procore.com. For more on what Procore is doing with SLOs, check out these other talks. Jim DeVille's Good in SLO, Stephen Weber, Arguments in Favor, and Justin Wong's Stephan Cunningham and my talk on SLOs as code. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you around.